Gentlemen, please take your seats. The spotlight is about to begin. Good evening, everyone. I'm Mystery Matt, and you're listening to the Mystery Matt Spotlight Podcast. This evening, I've got kind of a weird one. It's been popping up on my feeds, and even just for the point of how it gives another perspective to this crazy thing that we call life, was interesting enough. As you know, I'm a fan of different opinions. Whether or not I believe them is, another thing, and whether or not you believe them is another thing too. These things are always conspiracies, but this one's not really a conspiracy. Not really a conspiracy per se. It's more of a well, I might as well just get into it. But anyways, this evening I'm joined by Nancy. Sarah's here and listening, and Chris might chime in. I don't know. We'll see how it goes.
The goal of the podcast is to break Nancy's brain.
Yeah. So this gentleman by the name of Darryl Anka, Anka, when he was in his early teen years, he came across a large flying black triangle. Since seeing it the first time, he has seen them several times after that. Now he is able to channel a being from another dimension that calls himself Bashar. Daniel is...
Sorry, can you say the name again?
Bashar.
Bashar, okay.
Darryl is also a author, so we have to keep that in mind. If there's money involved, you always got to ask these questions. I am going to be playing clips, like sound bites from some of his live Q&A kind of things, because mainly I feel I can't word them like he does, and I don't want to get things twisted. You know what I mean?
There are psychics that claim to speak to extraterrestrials or other beings.
Yeah.
In even other universes.
So he actually has a series of laws. There's 5 laws. Hold on, I think I had them here at one point.
I think I might know what you're talking about. Just for context, I have no idea what this was about. All Matt told me was he needed me to be here because he had a topic that was going to break my brain. We're all going into this. The only person that knows anything is Matt.
I know a wee bit.
Sarah knows a wee bit.
Yes, talk to somebody.
Oh, that one's... So anyways, I was hoping for a list. It did not give me a list. One of the laws that he mentions is everything is here and now. Time is not a thing. It's a mental construct.
I've heard this.
Right?
And I think we've discussed this.
Everything, as we are starting to understand more and more in science, vibrates at a different frequency. Right? The reason we are here is because we chose to experience something that happens in a physical reality.
Yes.
And for us to be able to completely understand what's going on, we cannot do it with our current mind because it was not designed to comprehend it.
Correct.
But there is ways to try and explain it on the most basic levels, I would say. So one of them was a lady came up and she said she was seeing beings in her cornfield that were tall, pale, much like you've heard many of the descriptions of aliens. Mm-hmm. And she saw them once, and then she saw them again. And when she saw them the third time, they proclaimed to be beings from an ancient past. And Bashar explains that, like I said, there is no past, there is no future, everything is here and now. You are tapping into a frequency that chronologically would have happened a long time ago in your timeline, but it's happening here and now, so it bleeds into your reality, and you've hit a frequency of your being that is now able to see that part of the dimensional shift. He was also saying that we all are, the idea of the law of attraction, and what was it? It's a term. Anyways, it's a term for trying to vibe with what you want, and it's like a wishful thinking kind of manifestation. There we go. Manifestation, wealth, all this kind of stuff. And he explains that yes, you can have all of it, especially if it was in your contract for why you wanted to come here in the first place. If this was your main plan to do this, then yes.
So just for everybody that doesn't know, the philosophy behind the law of attraction is that energy precedes manifestation.
That one.
Yeah. Positive thoughts bring positive experiences. And when you're focusing on the positive, then you'll notice positive. That's why people say when you're in depression to focus on your gratefulness.
That's right.
Because as you start seeing the positive, you don't focus on the negative. But the human brain is set up to focus on the negative.
And that's exactly what he's trying to get across, that if you are focused on one thing in a certain way, you will actually be pushing it away and blocking it as opposed to letting it get to you.
Yeah. The first thing when someone says to me that they're feeling depressed, I sit down, I'm like, okay, tell me 5 things you're grateful for. Takes them a while, but it gets you out of it.
Yeah, I want to see if I can find a reel.
Should have done this before.
Yeah, well, I wanted it to be spontaneous because the way they were coming up in my news feeds are always spontaneous. I'll just go to Reels. That's where it is. Cool. Okay, so make sure my volume's up.
Don't worry. Don't react to the things that you don't prefer, because remember, even if something crops up in your life you don't prefer, it's still there for a reason you can use in a positive way. Make it part of your excitement that things crop up you don't prefer, because it's going to give you an opportunity to see by contrast what it is you do prefer more clearly. That's how to use that in a positive way, instead of simply matching the vibration of what you don't prefer by moping about it. The idea is nothing affects you until you agree to be affected. You are changing your own energy to match the frequencies of things you believe are true. So watch your definitions and create new definitions that work for you, instead of just assuming that the ones that don't work for you are facts that you cannot change. The only facts that exist in your creation are the 5 facts we call the 5 laws. You exist.
Oh, that's what I wanted to pause on there, especially since it's getting into a couple seconds of this thing already. But he's got 5 laws that this entity, like right now when he's speaking, he actually has his eyes closed and his hands move in different gestures than Darryl's do when Darryl's in control.
So he's able to channel then.
He's
He's
channeling a being from a different dimension that apparently is a type of human, but in a different dimensional plane that can already understand how to control vibration and all that technology. And that's how he's able to communicate with us. And his thing is to try and let us understand that we can build our future just by trying, or even just thinking positively.
Yeah,
right?
Like it's basically, you look at the lesson that the universe has handed you. Yeah. And because if you don't learn your lesson, history will keep repeating itself until you learn your lesson.
Yeah. So I'll just rewrite that a second here.
Facts that exist in your creation are the 5 facts we call the 5 laws. You exist. Everything is here and now. The one is all. The all are one. What you put out is what you get back. Everything changes except the laws. Everything else other than those facts are not facts. They are perspectives. They are opinions. They are beliefs. And you can change every single one of those. Make sense?
Yes.
So that's one instance.
Check.
This is why he's getting me, because he's going through the list and he's hitting the check marks. Excuse me. So, as you know, we did the whole section about the Nephilim, the Anunnaki, all that kind of stuff. The angels, demons, giants, all that kind of stuff. He brings it back to that. One guy asked in one of these Q&A sessions, how did man become to be? And he says, well, it was an alien race that had atmospheric problems. They came here to mine some of your minerals to fix their atmosphere, and in doing so realized it was going to take them a very long time to do it if it was just going to be them traveling in ships. So that's when they created the human race to be like a worker race, or the S-word race that you don't like to throw around the internet so much anymore because it causes problems. But then after a while, other... it's slave race. That's the word. What?
We thought it was something else.
No.
We went Nazi territory.
Well, it is. Well, but no. So no, they created a slave race, and then after they got their minerals, they were told by other types of extraterrestrials that no, you have to let this civilization now develop normally because you've added so much to it that it's now hitting this point of evolution, and you need to let them be their thing. So he's saying that like that's how we started, and I'm like, okay, that's fine. Another person comes up and says, well, how does Bashar explain Jesus Christ? And he says, well, that's where a lot of people are getting confused. Christ wasn't saying that he was Christ. He was saying that if you live like me, you will become a Christ. Meaning he knows how to vibrate on the certain frequencies to allow things to happen. Turn water into wine because it's only a frequency difference. If you look at science, everything just vibrates at a different frequency. And
had grapes.
That brings it back to the Higgs boson. That's where they've noticed that with the Higgs boson, with that thing, depending on how fast it vibrates, is what kind of material you're getting out of that atom.
Well, we're all frequencies.
Yeah.
And that's why, like, when I read energies, I read the person's energy, I read the person themselves.
Yeah. He was saying that Christ wasn't trying to start a religion whatsoever. He was actually just trying to show us that there's more to us. And if you live in a way that you prefer to live, he says follow excitement, things like that. So if you're stuck between this one or that one, do the thing that excites you the most, even if it's only by a little bit, because that is the whole point of you being here, is that is the path you are supposed to be following. He also says things like, you never left heaven. You're there now. You will never leave. You cannot leave. It's impossible. The brain you're thinking with now is your physical, mortal brain. You also have a mind that's called the higher mind. I think you talk with yours all the time. That's why you're able to. Yeah, that's why you're able to talk to spirits. Yeah. But all these spirits are here and now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everything is here and now. So even
because your energy, you're just in a suit. Mm-hmm. Like it's just a physical, like it's a meat suit. People say, right?
Yeah.
And your energy just goes from place to place, person like body to body, whatever, and we say different. If it's all here and now, it's just different timelines.
Yeah.
But it's only the outer edge.
Yeah.
It's the same. You're the same on the inside.
And then when it came to explaining ghosts, he's like, those are people who have left their mortal body. That is true. But the reason they have crossed over is because they haven't figured out the frequency to their higher mind to be able to connect back to it. So that's why they have to be sometimes told that they're dead, because they don't even realize they've passed on half the time and don't realize they have to switch. And that's what I mean. This is why I needed you here for that, because it gets really far into everything resonating at a certain frequency. If you know that frequency, you can tap into it. You can change everything about yourself. It explains all the religions. He literally sits down and he's like, okay, well, what about that? Well, that guy had this kind of idea, but that was because of this idea that happened back then, and that was misconstrued by this. And he ties these things back. I'll see if I can find another shorter clip.
The Jesus Christ thing kind of goes with that, because if you look at the Catholic Bible is based on the 10 Commandments, and if you look at the 10, other than the 3 that are to worship Him, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not cheat, don't covet thy neighbor's wife. Basically, be a decent fucking human being. And we actually abide by those in our law, in our justice system.
Oh, I got one on death. Here we go.
Death is really just like waking up from a dream, because physical reality is a dream. You do understand that you're in spirit right now, yes? None of you leave spirit. That's your natural state. You are just dreaming that you've left. That's what physical reality is. A portion of your greater being in non-physical reality is pretending that it's no longer in the spirit realm. But you are there. Right now. The greater portion of you. And this portion that is seemingly the whole of your identity as a physical being, to the version of you that is in spirit right now, is just about the same as the size of your fingernail. That's your physical being.
Because you do it over and over again, right? Making up the whole experience.
So just like you wake up in the morning from a dream, yes? Is that painful?
No.
Well, then, same idea. You're just going to wake up and go, oh, that seemed so real. But now I know that was just a dream, and this is who I actually am. Yes?
Yeah.
Does that sound more preferable?
Yeah.
All right.
So that was Bashar on death.
So when we talk, like with numerology and tarot, when it talks about, because you can find your life path number by adding up your birth date.
Yeah.
And it's basically, numerology states that you have 9 lives that you go through, and in each one of those is you make a soul contract to figure out what lesson you're going to learn this time around.
Yeah.
And the thing is you keep having to do your time around until you've learned that lesson. So some people have longer.
Yeah.
Have more than the 9.
So he was also saying that we are all the higher spirit mind, right? But we are also God, because God, so when it comes to the Bible, they say, oh, well, God created free will. How do you explain that? Well, how is a God who knows as much as a God understand the trials of a human and be able to try and figure out what it needs to learn? So, like, it's kind of hard to explain.
It's almost like when you have kids and you have to let them find their own way in their own, you have to find their own way in their own way, because you're not living as them, but you guide them along the way, because you have life experience and you want the best for them. So as you're going through, yes, your kids have free will, but you teach them and guide them to make the right decisions as they go along. But you're never, as a parent, taking away free will.
The reason the free will was given was to find these different paths that the overall mind would not have, because it's not a free mind or what have you, right? It doesn't have the ability to think the way a physical reality person would. So you give that free will, you throw in a little bit of spirit, which is your higher mind, and then the higher mind goes, yeah, okay, well, I'm going to learn this time around the rock, and like maybe I'm going to be a famous race car driver this time around. And I'm like, okay, yep, this is what I'm doing, and go. And then your dream starts, like he was mentioning, right?
Side note, your friend's sitting in the chair and he very much enjoys this podcast.
Tim?
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought he would come tonight because he's like,
yeah, man. Stretched out, arms up.
Oh, yeah, he's vibing hardcore.
Right? Long legs, right?
Oh, yeah, he was tall like me.
He's sitting there and he's like nodding his head. He's like, yeah.
Yeah, he's like, Matt, you might be onto something. Yeah. Check out the vibrations. And then you start looking at people who have come up with scientific ways to communicate with the dead. And those all deal with... on frequency. Yeah, they all base on frequency. And the ones that get it working right and properly, those are the ones that get killed or go missing.
You also have to, the one thing that I've learned, the being able to like open my third eye, is not everybody wants to do it. And so many people are afraid, and so they don't do it. And that's why it takes so long for you to go through and learn how to communicate, because it takes your brain time to wrap around the idea of what you're actually doing.
Yeah.
And not many people can. We all have the ability. It's just whether you want to or not.
Yeah. And that's exactly what he's trying to say. He's like, if I start teaching this civilization how to think in the way that's more the way the universe runs, then maybe they'll be able to get a little bit further, a little bit quicker. Another thing he was saying is that there's no reason we should be polluting our planet the way we are just to create electricity. And then that ties back to the Tesla one. I think we did a Tesla one, didn't we? No, we were going to, and it got canceled. There you go. So brain's still thinking about ones we haven't even done yet. But Tesla had found out, allegedly, a way to harness energy from the atmosphere. I can't remember what the heck he called it. Low ionosphere something. But that's what...
Remember you talked about this.
That's what his great big... You may have seen a photo of his great big electromagnetic ball building thing. One of the reasons why they shut him down is because he had such a huge bolt of electricity go through that entire building that they're like, no, you're causing problems. Your neighbors are afraid that everything's going to blow up and stuff like that, because he's literally summoning lightning, to hit his house, because the guy lived there. He was a bit of a nut, right?
There's also a very fine line between genius and insanity. And that's where when you start to open up your mind.
And then your mind can't take it because it wasn't built to.
Exactly. But also, like, there are certain, well, you guys know this, there are certain people that I say what I can do and what I can't do. Not a lot of people that I know that I can do what I can do. But the simple fact is that people don't want to know that. And they look at you different, and they're like, oh, she's weird.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, yeah, and your spirit guides are telling me all they need to tell me.
So this gentleman that I keep playing the clips for you, he is 72 years old and still going out to these conventions, and he's been doing it since he was 20. So to have a ruse go for that long, it's either super dedication that you don't see anywhere else or something else. Now, he is an author, but a lot of the stuff he talks about is things he's learned from Bashar. Bashar is not the real name of the one he's channeling, because the civilization that Bashar, quote unquote, Bashar comes from, they're all telepathic and there's no need for names. Because you'd be talking to the person directly. You would not have to say, oh, Nancy, to get in.
Your spirit doesn't have a name.
That's right.
You're when you're born in the physical, you're given a name.
Mm-hmm. So he was saying the reason he wanted to be called Bashar is because he dug back into Darryl's past and realized he was of a certain culture. And apparently the word Bashar means messenger.
Oh, neat.
Yeah.
That's very fitting.
Yeah.
And that's the thing too, is like, people don't understand, as when I do readings, I have people say to me, my friend so-and-so passed. Are they here? And then it takes a minute because, like, they have to talk about them.
That person has to remember that's what their name was.
Exactly. And their relationship to them, it's almost like you got to talk about it for them to be called in.
Yeah.
And it starts from way back, and then they start to come forward.
Yeah. Yeah, you got me thinking about Tim now. Cause,
he just pops up. But I think because I've seen him so much before, that he's one that all of a sudden I'll look over. And
well, he was really great on the music ones. And even the pet one, he was good on, because he was way into animals and stuff. But he would be the one also that would be into the conspiracy theory and things vibing, right?
He's sitting there
like he tokes,
nodding.
He was one of the only ones that could sit beside me and just smoke pot all day and just talk about random shit, right? We never really had a quarrel at all, ever. So
well, when you're high most of the time, do you get angry over anything?
No, but you get really philosophical.
I was going to say, Tim was very philosophical when you had conversations with him. He was extremely intelligent.
And a break dancer.
Pardon?
And a break dancer.
Yes. He could have been in the Olympics.
Yeah. Oh, let's not get into that. I'll get into trouble.
Anyways,
I know the whole
I'm-
story of
I'm
it.
glad that Tim is enjoying this.
Well, yeah, because he's vibing at just that other frequency that puts him in the slightly off dimension. So, like Bashar says, everything is here and now. Nothing is in the past, nothing is in the future, everything is here and now. That also explains out-of-body experiences. While you're able to leave it, you can go to any time, place that there is, because you're actually popping out of this reality, changing your frequency, going back to the 1950s, watching your parents, sock hop dance at the, Back to the Future cliche bullshit, right? And you actually are phasing into that time. But when you're there, you're going to be like a spirit, because everything is here and now.
That's like when you have the dreams. I've kind of figured out that when I have the dreams that I'm watching, like it's a TV show, then I'm experiencing something from a different dimension, like a different timeline. And when I'm actually in it and I'm the person in the dream, then that means that there's a message for me.
A couple of years back, I noticed whenever I'm having a really, really good day, something's about to go.
That's Murphy's Law.
No, but it's been weird. Like,
oh no, Murphy's Law is.
If something's gonna go wrong, it will.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like I've had days where like I'm like, man, I haven't had a day this great or this good in like fucking 4 years. And then later that night, I get a call, my grandfather passed away, and it's like, oh, well, shit.
So that's almost like your subconscious preparing you for bad news. Because it knows it's coming.
The last one...
Your intuition knows it's coming.
Well, it's getting better. Because I was sitting there playing a video game one day. I'm like, I wonder how Aunt Donna's doing. She died 2 days later.
You told me about this. Yeah, you messaged.
Yeah. And I haven't talked to Aunt Donna since Uncle Wayne's funeral. Aunt Donna's been in a home. I don't know how mentally stable she was. I don't know what her physical health was like or anything else. But all of a sudden she popped in my head, and it was like a really strong, like, oh, remember when you did this with Aunt Donna? And then all of a sudden, 2 days later, gone.
The lessons thing really kind of hit home. So after my mom passed, she came and talked to me, and she's like, I did everything. My job was done. You're all raised. You all have partners, and you're all going to be okay. And I did my job. My job is done. And that's what she said. My job is done.
Yeah. Bashar even said, your body will fail. It'll shut down. It'll turn off. You are brought back to your spiritual self, and you are asked, would you like to continue? And you actually get the choice to carry on in your current form, or hit the reset button, maybe try another realm or another state of being even, because you don't have to come back to a physical reality.
No, there's also a theory that says when you go into the light when you die, is that you being reborn, going into the light, coming into somebody else. And that's where they talk about what are the first couple of years you don't have any memories of the first 4 years of life. I forget what that's called, but it's a certain term. And that's saying because you're going through a reset just to get you into the
Well, also our higher forms are supposed to be non-physical and just energy.
Yeah. We're
So
just balls of energy.
So if that's the case, you're going to be blinded by a white light because that's all that's there is energy.
Yeah.
So and then what? Oh, hi, Chris. Did you? What? You all right? You need something?
Finish your thought and then give it to him.
Oh, I lost the thought now because I'm a stoner.
Ball of energy.
Ball of energy. So, yeah, of course you would see a white light when you come in. And then the people that do remember the birthing process, how they say they came from a white light, that would be just the same thing in reverse.
But there's also documented stories of kids talking about their, this is where I died or this is where I lived, and talking about their past life, and actually bringing their parents to like the gravestone or the house they lived in, or talking about, and the parents are going back into history and finding all this. Sorry, was that your thought? Finding all this stuff out that they were correct, and then once they get to 5 or 6, they don't remember anymore. Yeah. And if they do remember, as they grow up, they're incredibly gifted, like intuition gifted.
Yeah. That's because the connection between the two minds for whatever reason, didn't get severed when it was supposed to. So
Yeah.
now he's getting the information from previous lives.
And they have a higher level of consciousness.
Yeah. And then he'll hit a certain maturity, things will update, and then it'll be removed. And even the memories might go too. That's actually how they choose the Dalai Lama. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
When the Dalai Lama dies, they start going around the countryside talking to children. They usually wait a couple years, about 8 years, anywhere in there. And then they go around and they check all the younger kids. And they'll come and they'll put out, like, the monks will put out a mat, and then they'll put 3 toys on the mat, and they'll say, which one is yours? And then after they pass this test by picking all the toys that used to belong to the previous Dalai Lama, they are therefore essentially crowned Dalai Lama.
That's really neat.
One of the ones, it was in a movie, but apparently it was based on a true story. But either way, allegedly, the newest Dalai Lama, the one that died before him, collected antique cars and had them all done up in a relatively large collection. And when the little boy was finally taken to the Dalai Lama's temple, I guess you could say, they opened up the garage and the little boy yelled, "Oh, good, my cars." He had no idea that there was cars behind that door or anything else. He comes from a poor town. He's, barely seen a car. And then they open up the doors and he's like, "Oh, good, my cars." And he just remembered, right? So, yeah, that's how they picked the Dalai Lama.
Okay. I'm going to jump off topic for a second. Like, it still falls into the topic. But when I was 25, I was going through a really rough patch in my life. And I was also trying to quit smoking. So we brought somebody in that did, like, readings and hypnosis to help you quit smoking and stuff like that. And when they read my past lives, and when I was put under and they read my past lives, one of the stories I told was I have an obscene fear of walking backwards or going downstairs backwards or anything like that. And always falling off of, like, standing near a cliff or anything like that. I can't turn my back to a cliff or anything like that. And the reason for that was because apparently in one of my past lives in the 1950s, I was actually in a car that went off a bridge backwards. And I was able to give the first 4 numbers of the license plate, make, model of the car. And when we Googled it, we were actually able to find the news article of the story. And every detail I had given was down to T.
That's what, like in your hypnosis?
Yeah.
That's wild.
Okay, I got another one here. This one says, Your Purpose Explained by Darryl Anka, A-N-K-A, Anka, / Bashar.
A question that everyone asks when they're exploring spirituality is, what is my purpose? What is my mission in life? The idea, fundamentally, is to learn to be your true self. What does that mean? We all come in with the idea of having chosen this life with a theme or a purpose or a challenge to transform and overcome. And the challenges that we experience in life are usually representative of the themes that as a spirit we chose to explore in physical reality. But what does it mean to really be your true self? We all innately have a vibration in our core, a frequency that is our true essential frequency. It is the frequency from source, the frequency that represents our connection to existence and all that is. It is the difference between the frequency of our physical minds and the frequency of our core vibration that we are attempting to harmonize with in exploring the idea of physical reality. We are essentially spirit beings. According to Bashar, we never really leave the spirit realm. While in spirit, we have taken a portion of ourselves and we have focused it into this dream into this experience or this illusion that we call physical reality.
Okay, I didn't think that one was as long as it was because they don't tell me how long they are. But anyways, that kind of explains in a nutshell. And that little excerpt I just played there, that was not Bashar speaking. That was Darryl. Bashar has more of a, as a matter of factual type of speech pattern, whereas Darryl literally sounds like he's reiterating what someone told him. Which is, if it is a hoax, which it very well could be, it's a very good one. And the gentleman has perfected the craft. And even some of his teachings, I don't find a problem with them because nothing involves the harm of anybody else in any way.
Well, that's what the just thought that came through my head was, like Sarah before had been like, cult. But at the same time, what is the harm? And you're sitting with somebody that's going through it and they're in the shit, they're in the weeds. When you're in the weeds, you cannot see the light.
Yeah.
You can't see the end of the tunnel through the weeds.
That's true.
And you only see what you're seeing, which is you're stuck. And when you start talking about, okay, tell me 5 things you're grateful for. The minute you start talking about the good things that you have in your life,
it starts to change your frequency.
It starts to change your perspective.
Yeah.
And you start to say, okay, maybe I'm not as stuck in the weeds as I thought I was. And then you start changing your thought pattern to get you out of being stuck in that.
This.
Oh yeah, okay, I remember now. Okay, Chris wants me to tell a story of when I had my first real conversation with his mother. Now, God rest her soul. By the time she ended up passing away, she was an amputee, wheelchair bound, not having a good go at things. But one day I'm having a problem at work and she comes walking up to, I think she was picking up a bottle of Coke. Pepsi, right? She was into Pepsi. And,
for a second I was like,
yeah.
It is Hamilton, so it's possible. Not your mom, I meant like.
So anyways, she's like, "What's up, honey?" And I spill the beans to her, this is wrong. That's messed up. I'm trying to do this. I can't do that. And then she's like, "Well, listen to this. I've been in and out of the hospital for X amount of years. I've got this disease and that disease. The doctor says I got about this long to live, but I don't listen to what he says. I'm going to do whatever the fuck I want to." And then she just goes down the list of how much I have it fine compared to what she's dealing with. And she's like, "I'm not here to brag to you. I'm here to show you that there's way worse. And you're still doing okay, honey." I'm like, holy fuck. When someone kind of, it was almost like she was being mean to me in a way, but it was to teach me something, yeah. Right? And I'll never forget it. I even bring it up to Chris all the time, and he wasn't there when I had the conversation with her, but yeah, she put me in my fucking place really quick. Just like, listen, there's worse. So you're good. Calm down. It's like, all right,
And once you realize what your life's purpose is in this round, things start making a lot more sense. And then things start going a little bit better.
Yeah.
But once you realize your life's purpose, a lot of the times all the shit will hit you all at once to be like, all right, you think you know your purpose? Let's see if you can handle
it's
this.
Like, okay, pop quiz.
Pretty much, right? Like throwing shit at you left, right, and center. And like, I remember being in the thick of it and I'm driving to work and I'm yelling in my car and I'm like, listen, universe, can you fuck off right now? Like, think I've handled all the shit that I can handle. I am done. You can back the fuck off.
Yeah.
And then I'm thinking, well, maybe I shouldn't say things like that.
It's like, no, I'm going the wrong direction. I am actually now, when you're saying things like that, you're actually attracting things like that now.
So, but then usually when I say things like that, I hear, all right, fair enough. We're done. Because that's all, I always hear the same thing. Okay, fair enough. Like, I'm at my breaking, fair enough. We get it. We'll back off. But in the process of learning your life's purpose, you do go through a lot of shit.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder what my purpose is.
You have to figure out your own purpose.
I don't know what my purpose is.
I heard another conspiracy theory that said that we outlawed a certain frequency of music because it would make humans. Hey, no side conversations.
Sarah's trying to figure out her life purpose.
Sarah, well, okay, well, let's go that direction then. Screw the music. Sure you do. Your purpose is, yeah.
You don't even realize it.
Oh, what?
I care.
Oh, no, I don't like people.
You don't have to like. It doesn't have to be. People.
Your time
I don't
around
like
the
people
rock
either.
this time
I
is
think your
to learn
life
patience.
purpose-
Is to what?
Learn patience.
Oh, yeah, good luck with that.
You know
think-
why? Because you're with me and I've got so many of them.
I am one.
My guess would be your life purpose is to advocate for those that can't advocate for themselves.
And Manolis.
It's also to support some of the units around you. Sometimes that's your purpose. Sometimes your purpose is to be so that River can be. Sometimes your purpose is to be for Kiska's well-being. You know?
Look how well that turned out.
Yeah, but look how many different laws and stuff were passed because of it.
I didn't necessarily have too much of it.
You know what I mean? But every little bit, you get enough people vibrating on the same frequency, stuff gets done.
So I think my life purpose is to show people what it feels like to be loved unconditionally. And I have just got to the point where I am loved back unconditionally.
I seem to take in some weird people sometimes.
Yeah, you do. Sorry.
You attract strays.
I attract strays, the people that are down and out and need a reboot.
Same with cats.
What?
Lucy was pretty much a stray. Look how she's devoted to you.
Well, yeah,
You're
but
fucking Snow White, dude. You have every animal I've ever seen wrapped around your fucking finger.
Does that mean we're gonna show up one day and Matt's gonna be out there like Snow White singing the song? But it's the version from Shrek.
Well-
Yeah, it's a song.
well, like you, Sarah, you asked me the one time why don't I meditate, and I keep telling you it's because I think I'm going to get superpowers. And it's because of little shit like that, right? It's like, oh, the animals are attracted to you. If someone's got a problem, they come talk to you. If
Animals
you know, like
also can read energies.
the straight. Oh, yeah. Okay, so we have a friend. I'm not going to mention who. 'Cause it's just anyway.
Yeah, let's not.
So I'm at the store, and I'm working with my friend Steve. Guy comes in, and he's like, "Oh, hey man, how are you? You know, typical store stuff. Like, you know, I try and be friendly with everybody. You know, you learn stuff about people if you just talk to them. I found that was the best way to do things, right?
That's how he got me.
Conversation, and you learn who people are, and you pick the ones you like. I guess I don't know. Anyways, we're sitting there, and I'm talking to this guy, and by the way he's talking, I'm assuming he's a friend of Steve's. So he's, you know, I'm like, okay, well, I got to do my job. You know, I got to fill the shelf or whatever. And then he goes over and he talks to Steve for a couple of minutes. And about 5-10 minutes goes by and we go to leave. Steve and I were finishing our grocery shift. So we're walking down the street and the guy's walking with us. And we're heading to Steve's place. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. You know, he's coming with us. He knew Steve was working. He's meeting Steve after work. We got all the way to Steve's place. We're smoking pot with the guy, all this kind of stuff. Eventually, he decides he's going to go home. I talked to Steve. I'm like, so how long you known this guy for? And he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, is he not a friend of yours? And he's like, no, I thought he was a friend of yours. So just all of a sudden, we got an adopt-a friend that just showed up. And he's like, hi, I'm your friend now. And it's just like, I've never had that happen before or since. And it was just the weirdest thing. It's like, hi, I'm a friend of yours. And it's like, oh.
Isn't it weird though? Friendship is so weird to me because you like find a random human and you're like, yeah, I like this one. I'll keep you.
But this one just showed up.
Like relationships.
This one volunteered. Like,
So, since we're talking about friendship and how people are brought together and joined, when I met Matt, I was at my lowest of lows. Like, other than having a roof over my head, like, I was fighting to feed myself, pay my rent, everything like that. I went over to the store one day, and I think I was short, like, 15 cents for a pack of ramen noodles or something. It was something stupid, like, something to feed myself. And I was like, oh, sorry, man, like, I'm short. And I went to go put it back, and Matt was like, oh, no, take a penny, you know, put a penny. I got tips, here. and he paid for it. So then during the week I would go over and, take my time to like wait until there was nobody in the store, or if he was outside having a smoke, and shoot the shit with him. And then I started to come in and I figured, okay, well, this guy helped me out, so I'm going to help him out. And I started doing the milk and filling the fridge for him when the store wasn't busy and stuff I wasn't supposed to be doing, but yet I was still doing it. And like we hung out at the store for about a month and a half before I finally was like, hey man, do you want to hang out afterwards? And he was like, yeah, you can come to my house. I'm meeting up with my friend Peter and we're going to get high. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I don't get high, but like I'll come hang out. And then I came and hung out with him and Peter here. I think it was just after you guys had bought the house.
Probably, yeah.
And hung out, and then I went home and I was like, okay, well, I kind of vibe with this person. And then like he was at work the next day, and it wasn't even me asking this time. He was like, hey man, are you coming to hang out this time? And I was like, sure, okay, I got nothing to do. Like I'll come hang out. And then since then, no matter what has happened, like I moved away for 4 years, but I always made sure to make that time to come back. And it was like, no, Matt is no longer my friend. He is now my brother. And unfortunately, he cannot get rid of me. Like, and it's in my mind, it was my family basically abandoned me, and Matt has stepped in as my family. And okay, you need this person. I'm going to be that person for you.
So there's a theory that states that, because we've talked about, we're all like our own energy fields, and we have, for quote unquote, a soul. There's soul groups, and in each new body or each new lesson, whatever life, whatever you want to call it, that you choose to live, you find your people.
Yeah.
You are either born into a family of your people, and they play different roles throughout whatever physical form you take, but you always find each other, and that's the term what a soulmate is.
Well,
soulmates, that's what soulmates are, is people that you find life, in quotes, after life after life after life, is because you recognize each other's frequencies, and you're like, yep, that's them. Just with a different name, different meat suit.
So it's kind of weird because Nancy and I have a very different relationship. We met when we were 11, but we were more acquaintances.
Yeah.
I think back then, but we kind of, we reconnected later on, and then she came to the rescue and cleansed my house of a very dark, evil asshole spirit. And ever since then, I think, like, we've just vibed, I guess, is the word we're using in this podcast. And it's weird because now I feel like you've never been not a part of my life.
If you...
Yeah, but for a long time I wasn't.
Right. But it's weird.
Always like, yeah, that's Sarah. I grew up with Sarah.
Yeah, it's like, oh, hey, Nancy. Like, if I saw you, it was never, like, weird. It was like, oh, there's Nancy. Or, like...
So if we bring it back to Bashar, and how he says that we all create our own realities, the only reason you people are in front of me right now is because we have co-agreed to exist in the same place on the same frequency so that we can interact together as physical.
We have found each other again.
No, I mean just right now. Even just right now, you don't know me. I am a reflection of what you need me to be in your reality. I don't know Chris. I know the reflection of Chris that I need him to be in my reality.
So are you taught? Then you're going into like perspective.
If you think about it,
what's the word I'm thinking? No, not perspective, but introspective.
Each person creates their own reality, and they intermingle with other people's reality to create what we call physical reality.
Yes. But
yeah, I know it's a thing to wrap your noodle around, but it's that's what he's saying.
Yeah, that coincides with finding the people that you have found in other forms.
But because you are giving off a certain frequency, you are attracting likes of that same frequency, or something relatively close to.
And it's your soul group, your soul family.
Yeah, which ties back.
You're all in different forms. You just find each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah. That's 50 minutes.
I really liked this one.
Yeah, I
You
thought
didn't
you...
break my brain.
Well, you have to really sit down and listen to more of Bashar's Q&As. I would love to play more, but I feel like I'm ripping the man off. He is an author. He has several books out. I find you're going to get more information from him when you're listening to him actually channeling Bashar. And you can tell because, A, his eyes are closed when he's channeling Bashar. A lot of the times his hands are touching, like the fingertips are touching. You know, that kind of thing. And he speaks more affirmatively, less
You can definitely
hearsay.
tell when somebody's channeling. You can definitely tell because the way that they speak will change. Sometimes the tone of their voice, the pitch of their voice, the volume of their voice, it will all change, and even physical characteristics and mannerisms will change.
Yeah. Well, like people are even going in with like certain words, and he has to ask them for their definition of that word because it's a lower thought pattern than what he knows. And then he ends up explaining that thought pattern leads to that, and that just, doesn't help the situation. And it's actually there to help you experience what you're supposed to experience. And I really recommend at least checking him out. I'm not saying he's legit, but
really, what
he
wrong
ain't
can
wrong
you do?
so far.
But what wrong can you do by encouraging somebody to be a better version of themselves?
Yeah.
Right? Like what yeah, that's exactly what it is. You're sitting there and you're talking with somebody and they're like, I'm in the shit, I'm in the weeds, and you're like, well, let me help you find your way through the weeds.
Yeah.
Let me help you find your path.
Let me be your weed whacker.
Or at least
I'm gonna say that from now on. Because there's so many times at work, and it's this is something I've noticed from changing roles at work, is when I was in it, and I was in the outbreaks, and I was working, and you're in it, like you're in the weeds. But as a manager stepping back and watching my team go through an outbreak, and me not being in it, I was able to sit back and say, and watch everybody step up, help each other out, work as a team, and it was all like almost uncommunicative. It was like, no, everybody stepped up and in we were, and PPE came out, signage went up, and off they go.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting when you start having a different perspective of viewing things.
Yeah. And that's what I mean. If nothing else, then at least we're giving another perspective to things. Like, if you're sitting back and going, you know what, the Bible doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Why would they do this, 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 and this? Also, why do so many of these religions not accept these parts of different biblical books? Like the Book of Enoch, there's like 13 books that are not considered in.
But that's also when other people get involved and they start changing things. And yeah.
Like the Book of
just
Enoch.
like in the Catholic religion and the whole thing with gays and like the LGBT community and all of that. And it's nowhere in the Bible says that it says to love one another. That's what it says.
Yeah.
Doesn't say you can't love somebody of the same gender or
Exactly.
like it's God is love, and that's
love
what
thy
it is.
neighbor.
And he states that he made us in his image, and so that's what we are. We are to love one another and treat each other with kindness.
And that's what I was saying to Sarah too. They say that the Son of God is Jesus, but then they also say that we are all sons and daughters of God.
We are.
So that makes us all Christ, which means we all have the ability to manipulate things in certain ways, right? Anyways, we're at 53 minutes, so I was wondering if I was even going to be able to do 30, just because I wasn't sure how it was going to start taking appeal. But like I said, check out Darryl, Anka, and we'll see you next week for another one. Take her easy.